Oh my gosh. How does this work again? Oh, there's that random sound. What it is, what's good, what's happening. Literally 2 days left in 2016. And thought I'd go ahead and revive the podcast for a moment. Didn't do a video because normally I'll post a video on Snapchat saying that I'm about to do my podcast, but I didn't. And the reason why I'll get into later. But nonetheless, it's good to be back. And I must say, there's definitely some good things in store. And I'm kind of going to be giving a little bit of what I'm going to be doing without giving too much, if that makes sense. So we want to just go ahead and make this be what it's meant to be. So, nonetheless, I hope everyone has had as positive or as productive of a year as they can. I know for a fact personally, this year has been about growth and adjustments and transitions in ways that I never would have expected. I will kind of go a little off course, but I'll kind of reel it in as needed. When I initially, worked on the podcast, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do my episodes here and there and kind of make it do what it does. But now I've kind of lately I've seen myself investing a lot more time and a lot more energy into it, and the results have been interesting because I remember telling someone as had a request of saying they wanted me to do a podcast about their basketball team. And of course, the minute I did that podcast, supposedly they started losing because of me, but I think it was just they hit that wall like most teams do. So I guess I can say my little bro listening, if you checking out the podcast, or if I send you the link for it, you can go ahead and I'll go ahead and say I was wrong, you were right. I shouldn't have said nothing about it. Maybe they would have still had a good little run going on. But that's not really what I'm going to be talking about today. Just to kind of make everyone clear, I was in last place in the fantasy league. I kind of just, because at one point I was wondering, I was like, are games or matches still going on? It was like, yeah, it's playoffs. I was like, oh, no wonder. I don't really need to be a part of that because I had a struggle pretty much from the beginning. So the reason, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, the reason the podcast has been kind of quiet is because I've been kind of figuring out what I want to do or how I want to do the podcast. And I must admit, sports is not that I'm wanting it to dwindle or diminish because there's no more football or I can't talk about basketball, because I could still do those topics. I just need to find a different avenue in doing so. So I'm working in figuring out how I want to blend and implement that into the podcast. But it's going to kind of be a trial and error type of thing. Thankfully, I was able to dive into my inner Apple passion by one of my coworkers gave me a nice legit Christmas gift, and it kind of gave me the incentive to go ahead and start giving Apple Music a try. So I went ahead and done the 3-month package, and likely I'm not going to really need to buy anything from their site, and just be able to go ahead and start on the annual or month-to-month subscription. So I had that covered probably until about June of next year, give or take. But I've seen and I've realized that there's so much music and there's so many artists that I like listening to or that I'm willing to listen to, that I can make that become its own process when it comes to the podcast and when it comes to different things to talk about. So what I'm going to do, because I wanted to kind of mention this a little bit, is I'll mention a few listens that I've recently given, and then I'm gonna do a brief tech talk and kind of go over what could possibly be coming. And I guess this is normally that whole, well, Brian, you shouldn't show your hand because you don't want everybody to know what you're doing. Valid. But I think with this, I want to go ahead and make it clear, like, hey, here's where I'm at and here's what I'm doing. So without any further ado, I'll go ahead and do my musical reviews or listens first. Uh, Joe, the R&B singer from mid to late '90s, one of his main tracks was "Treat Her Like a Lady," among other tracks. He released a new album, which I listened to. It's pretty good, pretty enjoyable. Very, it's a nice flow to it. I'm really feeling it. The Locks, I listened to that album. Anybody knows me knows I rarely listen to hip hop. So if anytime you hear me mention or state a rapper's album, take that moment for what it is because it does not happen very often. Um, of course I was on Solange's album. I did listen to the Tribe Called Quest. J. Cole's album, I'm not sure if I did a review or did any feedback regarding the album, but I did listen to his album. And like I said, my friend who hooked me up with the whole, with the setup with Apple Music, and I'll say it because it's pretty much the obvious truth. She's a music snob, but I've learned there's different, I'm still, it's me learning it myself. There are different types of music snobs. So if you have or have not heard the term, basically a music snob is someone who can analyze the ambiance of music being played in an environment. I guess is the nicest way to say it. Meaning, if you, let's say you ride with somebody and you hear what type of music they listen to, and you kind of can pick up on their style or their listen or their flow of listening or whatever. And it either can be, okay, this person has most times you don't want to state the evident or obvious or not make it like you're not interested, but you can say, oh, this person listens to this type of music or they like these type of songs. Well, it kind of then elevates into the club environment or when you go out partying somewhere, because if someone plays music, you're able to pick up, oh, I see they did this mix, or I see that they added this song in their queue, or just ways of how a person plays music. And you pick up on things like that when you go out enough, or you kind of just been able to peruse the scene involving music. So then it kind of ties into how you listen to music or your preferences of what music you do or don't like. Um, like for instance, in her case, she's not a '90s fan, and I had to really step back and understand like why didn't she like the '90s, and I was like, wait, never mind. If you were born in the '90s, you're not gonna like '90s music. Whereas with me, I'm an '80s baby. Like I was born in the '80s, like early '80s, and I pretty much blended right in as like a teenager, pretty as I was graduating high school, listening to '90s music. So and then there's the asterisks and the exceptions where it's like, okay, I'm not a '90s fan, but I like these artists from the '90s. Like R. Kelly was from the '90s, so that's one of her big artists. Um, it was kind of like a tough moment because we were talking about Janet. Like I mentioned, she was like, I'm a big Michael Jackson fan, but I don't like Janet Jackson, and I was like, okay, wait, so all right, enough said, not touching it. But then on the other side of it, she's got the background and the passion for um 80s, 70s, and 80s music. Because in most cases, and a lot of people, you'll learn this with music listeners. If you have family members or parents or grandparents who listen to old school music, who have vinyl records, for y'all young kids who listening and don't have a clue what a vinyl record is, ask either your mother or your grandmother what a vinyl is. Either they're going to find it online if you don't Google it, or they'll physically have one to show you what a vinyl is. And if they have a record player, that's an even bigger deal, because the thing, and I talked with someone about this before, it's the difference of music now versus back then. Music now, everything's digital. Back then, to say it without saying it, it was analog, meaning if you listen to a song, you got the full understanding of the song thanks to how it played and how detailed, like you could tell, like when you put the needle on a record, you literally would hear the needle as it not scratch the record, but how it would balance out the song, and you could kind of, it would ease into it playing, along with just the smallest things such as and if any of you have not seen it, and this is my music tangent, so this is kind of my exposure of what I'm looking at doing next year, is listening and playing a lot of music and coming at y'all and saying, here's some albums I think y'all need to listen to. Here's some albums I'm not sure about, but they're coming and you might like it. It's not me, but that doesn't mean it won't be a good album. Things of that sort. But if you have not seen the series, if you, two things. First, you'll want to see the movie Dope, because it talks about different things related to music and the 90s culture. But then if you want to get that 80s and that 70s feel of, you know, the whole New York, the five boroughs, I would recommend watching The Get Down. The Get Down is on Netflix. And those who know other ways of watching it, you have those options as well. But I wanted to at least give that little music tangent and kind of make it clear that music will be consuming a good amount of this podcast. I made my efforts in saying, okay, I'm going to do sports, and I can still do sports. I probably would be doing sports in a different manner. Just got to kind of see how I want to do that. So with that being, so with going into that, you know, like I said, I'm going to be listening, and I'll be giving some input, and I'll give some feedback, you know, as needed. So I'm gonna be a little emotional because I'll talk about the bad news first, because this one just kind of caught me for a blindside, unexpected moment. I currently own an iPhone 7. I've had my iPhone 7 now for probably a couple of weeks, if not longer. And I personally am a fan of it. I'll go ahead and get the obvious question that everybody's going to ask out of the way. Is it hard adjusting to not having a headphone jack? And the answer is no. And there's two reasons, actually three reasons I say that. Number one, most companies and most people nowadays anyway prefer Bluetooth or wireless over having a wired headset. I was at a Starbucks one day and someone made a conversation or a comment about the fact that if you're wired, or if you're wireless with your listening, it could interfere, or there's a likelihood that someone could hack into your information. That, to me, if you believe things like that, that's your personal preference or choice. I can't go against that on any level, but you really got to kind of think about technology a little bit. If someone's able to hack into your phone through a I'm gonna just let that go, and it's gonna be in the podcast because it's been a minute. If you really believe that someone can get into your information through your Bluetooth, got a ways to go with learning a little bit of technology side of things. So I'm sharing that, and I'm speaking on that because that's the biggest gripe and the biggest concern that a lot of people have about the iPhone 7 is, oh my God, they removed the headphone jack. What are we going to do? A lot of people don't remember or can relate. Android did the exact same thing. And this is me educating folks because I really want this to be pointed out. When Android's first device was released, aka the G1 didn't have a headphone jack. Let me repeat what I said. The Android G1, which was the first phone that Android brought out, did not have a headphone jack. It had a port that was a multi-port. That meant that the port was used either to listen to, you had a pair of headphones that came with the phone that you would plug into that jack to listen to music, or you would have to remove those headphones out and then actually plug in the phone to charge it. Eventually, time progressed. They came out with a port or device similar to what Apple has that nobody remembers, but I was one of those techies who bought it, where you could hook the piece onto it, and it had the port for the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack or whatever, however you want to describe it. Anybody who was diehard Sidekick fans, newsflash, y'all didn't have headphone jacks either. You had a headphone jack, but you had to use the headphone compartment or the size that was equivalent to the headset that came with the phone. And then some people found different, you had to find third party developers or companies who would make the similar headsets to use. When I say I was a diehard Bluetooth guy back in the day, or just headset person, Jabra and Jawbone were my go-to connections. Now, of course, JBL Beats, because I'm an audiophile in so many words. But the headphone jack not being there became like this most critical situation that a lot of people don't understand. But Apple gave you the solution to that by giving you the little port or the adapter to connect. Now, one suggestion, and I got this from Flossie Card, I believe is his name, on YouTube. So if you haven't followed him or don't know anything about him on YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, check him out. When I say he gives the most honest reviews about everything, he does. But he talked about, you get the little adapter. The best thing to do is get 2 of them. May need 3. Have one to keep at home, one to keep in your car, and one to keep in your wallet. You can sit it in your wallet and pretty much it's there just in case you need it. Because that's how, personally, I have just the one that comes with the phone. I keep mine in my wallet, and unless something crazy happens, unless my wallet isn't with me, I usually have it. So I'm pretty much covered there. But yeah, so I have that part. So there's the no headphone jack. There's the adapter that comes with the the adapter that comes with the phone. And then there's what you have, which is the third-party programs, the third-party parts that pretty much do what that main device does. And I actually bought one, and I've used it, and it's worth it, where you basically plug the adapter into your phone, and on the end of it has, and you probably hear it in the background, it has 2 ports. One is for your headphone jack, which if you want to plug in any headphones, any compatible headphone devices, you plug it into that. And then the other one is for your, if you need to charge your phone. Because a lot of people are like, well, if you plug it in, you can't charge your phone. What they're trying to get people in the habit of learning is charging your phone and listening to things with your phone they kind of want to get you out of that phase. But of course, we still have our needs, and we're needy people because we are consumers and we want what we want. So third-party companies, and I emphasize third-party companies because without these companies such as Beats, JBL, J-Clip, J-Bird, the list goes on and on of different companies who make headphones, Skull Candy, Soul Republic, which I'm wearing now. Random fact, and I guess I need to go ahead and be a little bit of a music snob with this. Out of all of my headsets I've purchased, I own, and I love music and I love listening, I think my Soul Republics are my favorite strictly because when you look at them, they look expensive and loud. I mean, expensive with a cheap feel and annoying, but when you listen to the sound clarity with them, it's a different feel that you just... and it's not even me like, oh my God, it's the music feels of all time. It's just, you enjoy listening to music when you listen to music with these. That's what I've learned. So those are my 3 bits with the iPhone 7. Now I'm going to give my bad story, and then I'm going to give my other newest addition to my Apple family. I'll talk about that. And I will give my other review and give you kind of just an overview of what's what. So earlier this week, it was the day after Christmas. I was, I had a little just product, and I'm not going to talk about the product because I need to give a review on it at some point. And I was using it it's supposed to hold your phone, you sit your phone in it, and it's supposed to help sit it upright or make it easier to hold, things of that sort. So typically when you use a device like that, you put it on and then it just pops off and you're good to go. Well, this particular moment, it wasn't taking off like it was supposed to. So what it decided to do was the bottom part of the phone, when I removed it, it came off okay. The top of the phone, it pretty much crunched it like it was a compact. Like if you've seen a car get crunched, it just crunched the top of my phone, and I just looked at my phone and just tried not to cry, but couldn't really do anything because it just was there. So it was what it was. But luckily, I'm getting that fixed, so that's a good thing. But that kind of made my iPhone 7 story be a tough process. But it's interesting because since that happened, I've since kind of reverted back to a few of my old, I don't want to say my old toys, but my old friends that felt neglected after I kind of fully went full Team Apple, because I already had, so I had and this is a backstory. I had the Note 4, and I was in love with the Note 4. Oh my God, Note 4 was so great. But I had pretty much everything slowly going into the Apple realm, such as my Mac. I had a MacBook Pro. Well, I have a MacBook Pro. That's how I do my podcast, obviously. My I got a tablet. That I got it was the iPad 2, which preference over poise. I mean, newer one would be better, but it's not. It's on an as needed basis, and then it's about money because it ain't cheap. And then I had the iPod Touch. So the iPod Touch was somewhat of the best way to say it was a teaser of the iPhone. So I was slow and delayed, but eventually I converted and got the iPhone 6. And it just was it worked. Everything just was seamless. Everything, if call would come in, pretty much every device went off. So having my iPhone 7, it was pretty much the same thing. And I just was telling that story because it's me, my little gadget and techie moment. Which then goes into the next device that I have, and I think this should cap off my Apple handling for now, because I'm looking to, like, as far as iPods, I have my iPod Touch. There's no more iPods coming out. I don't know if any of you all know, the Classic has been discontinued. A friend of mine who I have as an Apple Connect kind of made that clear. She was like, you need to just either get it now or just accept it being gone. So I've kind of done both. I had an iPod Classic, decided to be a techie and try to fix it. Fixed it wrong, messed it up, mistakes on me, live life and move on. But I now I got a refurb Apple Watch, 42 millimeter. And here's the best way for me to describe this before I continue. If you're a female, or as we hear at work time and time again, if you have a short, I ain't gonna say Napoleon complex, I won't say that, but if you prefer things to be in a smaller design for you, there we go, equal opportunity. In a smaller design for you, then go ahead and get the 38 millimeter. But if you want one that's a little bit bigger, you can actually see, you can kind of use a little bit, get the 42. I got the 42. Using it works. As far as using it with your phone, I did not use it with the 6 at all, the iPhone 6 Plus. But it worked with the iPhone 6 Plus. It worked with most iPhones, if I'm not mistaken. I think up to 5, from 5 on up, it should work. You can control, if you want to listen to music, you can control it from your watch. Only feature that I'm still trying to get a feel for is Shazam. Not Shazam. Siri, because Siri that's set up on the watch runs a little differently than Siri from your phone. Because if you do the Hey Siri option, it can be a little wonky, but it looks like it picks up information. It doesn't pick up information. So I'm still trying to get a feel for that. But as a whole, I like to watch. Workout wise is great. A few weeks ago I used it as far as when I was working out. It has a workout option where you kind of set a goal and you just work out. And once you're done, it kind of gives you a rundown of what you did. It'll tell you your beats per minute as far as your heart rate. Feature that a lot of us don't do enough is just take a moment and just step back and just breathe. And it makes you do that at least, I want to say it's 5 times a day. True story, and my twin will probably laugh at me for telling this, but one day we were at a little get together and we were all hanging out, and she was like, "All right, I'll be back," and I was like, "Oh, she's going to do her breathing," because it's fun because it literally will remind you, "Hey, have you breathed today? Take a moment," and it's literally it takes a minute, and you can set how many times it makes you breathe in that 1 minute. Mine's I set is I think it's set at default. It's like 7 sets, and it doesn't take that long. Once you're done, literally it's a minute. You didn't realize it was a minute. The bands. All right, 2 things. I'm gonna say this about the bands, and then I'm gonna get into my fidget cube review, then tell you what's coming. Bands for the watch, unless you prefer to just get them from Apple and pay the $49, aka nearly, might as well say $51 for the band. eBay, Groupon, Geek, Wish, all of those sites, I would recommend you getting them from there. The reason why is because they're going to be merely the same quality, if not better, than what you would get if you went to the Apple Store and bought those bands. I have a band on mine now. It's about $12, but it's similar to the Nike band, and it's a color that they don't have, but I like it because, of course, red and black. Anyone who knows me knows one of those 2 colors will be worn. And also, if you're looking for really inexpensive bands as well that are still good quality, I got 2 bands from Best Buy. They both were $10 a piece, and I have no complaints about them at all. So that's my input on the Apple Watch. It's worth getting. It's worth getting for different reasons. One feature that I'm looking forward to using, because I'm planning on using it while I'm in Baltimore. I want to keep saying Myrtle Beach, and ask me why. While I'm in Baltimore, is to try out the Pokemon Go app. Now, as a YouTuber has stated, and I am going to be the one to confirm, do not buy the watch just to do Pokemon Go, or do not buy it just to work out. If you're going to use it, utilize all the features to its full potential. And another thing to add, and then I'll go to my last review. If you know you have a lot of notifications that come to your phone. Now, to be clear, before I want to make sure I mention this, the way the watch is set up, it's set up where it works according to what your phone does. So it's going to mirror most of what your phone has the ability of doing. So if you get a text message on your phone, your watch is going to get the notification. It's beneficial to get that because in some jobs, such as mine, you can't have your phone out on the floor, which is totally understandable. No problem, no big deal. But with that being said, if you get notifications of a text through Messenger or whatever the case may be, you can comment, you can reply right there on the spot. You can do a voice message and send it to someone. They can get it, respond, on your way. As far as you can do scribbles, so you can write out messages to someone. It takes a while, but it depends on how long. If your message is long, just speak it. The speaking, the recording of your voice for the watch, pretty good. Only thing you have to keep in mind, just like anything else, background noise can either make or break how the message can come across to the other person. So just keep that in mind. But the thing that I want to mention, and I want to point this out because it's important, if you do not have to, if you have a lot of apps that send notifications to your phone, do not mirror or do not let your watch mirror all of those apps. Prime example, I have Bleacher Report. Bleacher Report, which a lot of you may or may not know, is a sports program, a sports app that pretty much gives you on-the-fly stories, team stream, telling you about certain teams, certain trades, certain rumors, certain stories. If you don't want every single one of those stories to come to your watch, turn that feature off on your phone. And as far as through the watch app. So you manage most of the apps through the phone. and then from there they're just handled on the watch to be viewed or modified as possible. If you get a lot of emails, random information, I would definitely not mirror those, because they'll come in just like that with no hesitation. All right, 30-minute mark, and I have rambled about a lot of things, and I still got this other part to do. So I have been bad with doing this, and I am going to tell everyone now. Wait until March to buy this product, because I've been buying it and it's been done wrong every time. There's a new device that's coming out that some companies claim to have, even though it's not valid yet, which is called the Fidget Cube. What is a Fidget Cube, Brian? Well, I'm glad you asked. The Fidget Cube is used for anxiety and stress, and it helps you with de-escalating your anxiety and de-stressing from whatever you may or may not be going through. It basically is a cube that has 6 sides. Obviously, if it didn't, it wouldn't be a cube. It has 6 sides, and each side has a different feature. One side has what's called it's for like a stone, where you basically can just rub your finger across it, and it's a rubbing. It's basically to kind of just give you that, okay, let me get calm, let me stay calm. There's one side that has it has 5 dots. 3 of the dots are clickable, 2 of them are not. You can just press the other 2 and they'll work just fine. But the other 3, if you click them, they actually make sounds. You heard the next one. It's one that pretty much looks like a light switch. You can just flick it back and forth. Someone looked at it the other day and thought it was equivalent to a counter when you go to to a club or something, where it counts you people coming in or going out or whatever. But it's mainly to kind of just give you that little click feeling. Because typically, and here's what a lot of these are for, and this is going to sound real weird. The average person picks up a pen and clicks the pen all day, or they got to beat the pen against. Like me, I'm one of those ones. I like to beat my pen. I'll play drums with an ink pen all day, and I like to have something as an alternative to do that and not make as much noise or not feel as much of an inconvenience or whatever. The next side of the cube has gears that you're supposed to hear clicking. On this one they don't. I'm going to go over that in a moment as to why I made the comment earlier about waiting for March. And then it has it's a metal ball that you can just kind of rub back and forth, roll back and forth. And I know I'm using these terms and it's probably sounding very borderline and inappropriate, but y'all know me. I'm just be me. Then there's the joystick. It's one that literally is like a joystick for a video game. You can move it back and forth. When I had this at one time, it was making a lot of noise where I guess it needed to kind of get in the groove. I've had it for a while. There it is. Never mind. But it's pretty good for what it does. You can rotate that on its own. It's not bad for what it does. The last side, it's basically, it has a dot it's a circle. It has a dot on the end of it, and you can just kind of put your finger over the dot and just have it going. It just goes in a circle, and you can just kind of be doing that and not know. Pretty much, you can sit and use this and forget you're using it because it has so many features of what it's capable of doing. Now, here's why I said to wait till March story. There are a lot of sellers on eBay, on the internet, on different websites who are claiming to sell this product or sell this device, and it's meant to be the real, and they're not stating that it's the real cube, but it's a prototype of the cube. When the developers brought out the device, they made prototypes, and a lot of prototypes have kind of leaked into the market or whatever the case may be. So those are out there. This is a prototype, and one of the reasons I confirmed it is the stone, the side of it where you're supposed to just kind of, glide your finger across, it's lowered in too low from what I've seen the actual cube, what it's supposed to look like. The buttons, as far as the 5 buttons, they are rubber. They're supposed to be plastic. I found that out. YouTube surprises you. You learn a lot of things unexpectedly, and that's kind of how I learned what I was supposed to be getting versus what I actually got, which is no big deal now. I mean, it does its job, so I'm not upset. The gears on the side, it's supposed to be 3 gears. anyone who remembers those locks that you would have with the three, it would have the three numbers, and you have to like rotate them a certain way. You're actually supposed to hear a clicking sound. All you hear is just that, so it doesn't actually click. And then you can look at them and tell they don't line up, because if it was clicking, it would actually stop at a certain point and say, okay, it stopped. So it doesn't do that. But beyond those things, I mean, for what it's used for, how it works, this one works fine. I have two more that I ordered, waiting for those to come in. They're coming from China. Customs is a pain. That's the best thing I can say. Trying to get things into the United States through customs is always a torturous process, and I'm learning that the hard way. And my final thing that I want to say with this, and then I'm going to ship it, my last part, is if you are buying items online and they state that, and the seller states that they are US, it's a US product or shipped from the US, be sure that you're reading what it says. If it says shipped to the US, or if it says can be shipped, or it's stating it's a US seller. And here's why I say that. A lot of sellers are going to say, you look at the product, you go online, you put in, see the information. Oh, it's a US seller. It's US product. Ships from, and it says, oh, it's being shipped from California. Cool. Go through the process, buy it, and you look online. You get I do PayPal. You get a PayPal notification. You realize with the PayPal notification, it says, oh, we're sending this, but it's going to be, the PayPal seller, their name isn't. I have a feeling I'm going to be doing this in one of my podcasts, and that is talk about things to keep an eye out for when it comes to purchases. And I won't chip at that now because I want to save that topic. But keep an eye on your sellers that you buy from online, and make sure that if their location says that they're in the United States, you're good, you're fine. If it says China, then it's going to come from China. Keep that in mind. So that's what I wanted to say about that. Waiting. So currently I have 3 more fidget cubes that are coming in, and I'll probably just be keeping them and randomly adjusting and bringing them out as needed. But I do want to go ahead and close the podcast by stating next week, probably a week from today, I wanted to say it was going to be on that Thursday, but I really doubt it, because Thursday I'm going to be too busy trying to just keep up and get stuff together. But I will be doing a podcast from MagFest, and the best thing I can tell you is to watch out. There will be lots of truth, plenty of substance, and a whole lot to share. So all I can tell you now, if you listen to the podcast I did last year, it's probably going to be just as bad as that one, but we're going to have fun. So I'm going to end it there. Last thing I want to mention before I get to this too slow option with GarageBand. If you are interested in joining me as a co-host, bratepodcast@gmail.com. I'm tired of getting Twitter emails. I actually want to get emails from people who are interested in joining me on my podcast. And I'm really being serious. If you really would like to join this and what I'm doing, please don't hesitate. I'm flexible with scheduling, with times. Most times it's maybe weekends, but I can work around other times and days as well. So I just wanted to put that out there, make it kind of my closing, my ending, my tell-all, be-all. But that's where I'm going to cap it off with this podcast. As always, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Spreaker. These episodes do go. So if you have not done so, please be sure to check me out at one of those locations. I feel like the block is telling me that you're doing and going too far, so I'm going to cap it right where I'm at. And until next time, this is BT signing out. Y'all stay blessed, be good, do something worthwhile. If you don't, you might miss out on your opportunity. Until next time, peace.